Welcome back to another vlog. I really apologize that I wasn't consistent like I said I was and getting out another vlog. I meant to get this one out quite a while ago, but unfortunately the thing I was waiting for was delayed a little bit, so I couldn't get this vlog out, and I apologize. So without further ado, here we are at obedience class. Bumblebee is sitting on a green mat doing a sit-stay, and Bumblebee is my golden retriever for those who are new and visually impaired. He is wearing a bandana that is kind of space, kind of nebula it's blue, and he's wearing his black service dog vest. Here I am walking behind him in his sit-stay, and back into heel position I go, and he gives me great eye contact. Next we move on to us shopping in the grocery store. Bumblebee's in a tight heel next to me on my left as we walk through the grocery store past the meat coolers and customers. Now Bumblebee is doing a dropped leash retrieval and carrying it through the grocery store past customers. As we go past cheese coolers, I ask him to come into a heel and off to the left, and he keeps walking with the leash in his mouth right next to me in a heel as we pass by other customers, and he hands it back to me here. Now we're just practicing different speeds or different tempos of walking. I'm walking super slow here, taking like little itty bitty baby steps every 5 seconds here. Bumblebee's stopping every time I take a step because I'm moving that slow. Now I'm going quickly. This was just basically a training trip. While my dad shopped around, I just joined him so I could just have fun with Bumblebee and not worry about groceries, which is nice. This was early April, so here we are celebrating Ezio's birthday. I took both my boys. Ezio is now 7. He is my all-black German Shepherd, and here I am filming the mountains with a little bit of snow on the top of them and mist from the clouds. And here I am throwing a stick for Bumblebee and Ezio into the lake. They go swimming and running. To be fair, the lake, the tide was up real high, so they were basically running through the water, so it was a lot of workout for them. They were unconscious when we were home. They were happily sleeping the rest of the day after this little outing. At the beach, there was a little bit of a log, and here's a cute clip of Ezio and Bumblebee jumping this log. Here they go. A few days later, here we are in the audiologist waiting room with Bumblebee in a settle on the floor in front of me. We just got my hearing aid checked. It's just a routine check after having a hearing aid. It went well. Now we're back in the grocery store. A couple days later, I'm getting Bumblebee to back up here as we are in the produce section with oranges and tomatoes on our left. And here we are walking Bumblebee in a heel next to me on my left side as we walk through the produce aisle. And then here we are leaving the grocery store. Bumblebee is in his harness vest. I'm holding onto his handle as he takes me to the right. He always thinks we're sharply to the right because that's where the disabled parking is, and that's usually where we park, and he was right. That is where we were parked, so he led me to the car. A couple of days later, I walked up to the corner store with Bumblebee in his black harness vest thing. Here's Bumblebee carrying a plastic bag full of the items that we got at the store as we walk down the street. I don't really love this harness vest thing that I have on him. It's not my preference to use this, but it's a good training tool, or it's good training for him to be in a harness soon. And it's just my preference not to use this. It's not for me, but it could be for someone else for sure. And within the next week, we're back at the lake again. Bumblebee running down the beach with his best friend, who is a chocolate lab, who's also a service dog. and the retired service dog, a Kelpie mix, and my German Shepherd Ezio, who is also running around up and down the beach. And a couple days later, of course, we always have lots of medical appointments. So here we are at the doctor's office, Bumblebee lying next to me on my right in the waiting room as we wait for our appointment. The day after that, we went to an art meeting for our art group. Here's Bumblebee laying underneath a table on a carpeted floor here. And then I pan to the left to show the Chocolate Lab service dog, who belongs to my friend. And a few days later, we're at Walmart here, walking through some scattered stuff on the floor, which were fake flower petals. I would never walk him through a toxic plant. Here I'm requesting Bumblebee to grab some crackers off the very bottom shelf. Thank you. He grabs it and hands it to me, and then we continue on through the frozen section. And at the end of April here, we were celebrating my mother's birthday, so I quickly went shopping with her before we ended up at her apartment. So here Bumblebee is heeling between me, the shopping cart, and my mom, who is pushing the shopping cart, and he's walking in a nice, perfect tight heel here. After that, we ended up at my mom's apartment, and I was going to spend the night with my mom and my sister there. Here is Bumblebee exploring the apartment. The apartment is carpeted for the main part of the place, and then the kitchen is like a tile floor. There's a picture of a big horse, and then here's Bumblebee coming over to me, who's on the couch here. And just down the street, there's a nice green grassy park for Bumblebee to run around and romp in while we are staying in the apartment for the night. So here he is enjoying himself, running around with a stick in his mouth. My mom's apartment isn't a pet-friendly apartment, so I had no worries of running into any strangers with dogs in the elevator. We were waiting for the elevator, then Bumblebee loaded in very nicely while still being in a heel, and he was very controlled for it all. And here we are back in the park down the street. Here's my sister swinging on a swing. Bumblebee had no issues watching something he's never really seen before. He was more than happy to try and walk in front of her one time. Luckily, she wasn't that high up, but it was funny. A few days later, I went up the street to go visit my retired service dog, Torian, and his best friend, who's an Alaskan Malamute. Here they are eating some kibble off the floor. It was a very nice visit. Once again, we're back in the grocery store for a shop. I think it was just me and Bumblebee this time. So here we are. I'm pushing the shopping cart while Bumblebee is heeling on my left. He is walking past other customers and a cooler full of food, and past the bread and more coolers full of cheese and whatnot. And he is wearing his black service dog vest, and he is wearing a dark blue navy kind of bandana with planets and like space and suns, like it's circles with orange and like yellow highlights. And with the next week comes another obedience class. Here is Bumblebee in a settle, while in the background there is 2 dogs doing recall practice behind him, and there's a dog next to him on our left here who is happily wagging his tail. Bumblebee kept eye contact with me. He's got his frog legs activated. Frog legs means he has his back legs completely sprawled out behind him. That was the dog next to us barking. Bumblebee didn't really care. He looked at him, but then returned his eye contact to me. Here's Bumblebee in a downstay while I'm a far away distance, and someone claps in his face as a distraction. He didn't bother getting up. He just looked at them for a second and then turned his attention back to me, who was far away from him. A few days later, here's Bumblebee in the grocery store with me on my left, healing while he carries an orange bag that I have for him just for training purposes. It's got his water bottle in it, and he hands it to me and I grab it. And with it nearing June here, we have had warm weather, so here's Bumblebee having a great time playing in the splash pad in the backyard. He's like running his nose along the edge and digging at the pad and splish splashing and just having a great time. A few weeks later, we have another couple art meetings. Here's Bumblebee laying on the carpeted floor next to one of my canvas photographs I have of some stars I took some photos of through my telescope. And with the next week, here's Bumblebee running around in a grassy field on a rainy day with his best friend, a chocolate lab. We were burning our service dog's energy because it was the first day of the art show and they were mostly going to be in a settle, so it was nice for them to run and stretch their legs. Here I am panning the camera over my astrophotography that I have on canvas for the art show. Here's Bumblebee healing next to me on my left. While we were setting up, Bumblebee alerted me to a medical episode, so I eventually had to sit down. Here he is glaring at me because I didn't listen to him right away. If you are sensitive to alarm noises, please skip to 12:55. This is a clip from last year's art show setup. Some maintenance guy hit a fire alarm. Here's Bumblebee wagging his tail. He was training back then and he was still a puppy, but he had no care in the world. It made no difference that a sudden alarm was going off like that. Back to this year's show, Bumblebee on the floor next to me on a settle mat that is purple. He is knocked out. And his friend, who's a couple feet away from us, on a plaid blanket that is red and black while she's in her harness. They're both in a settle. The art show is a 3-day event, so here's the next morning. I took both Ezio, Bumblebee, and Zayla on a walk. Here is Ezio and Bumblebee running around in the grassy field. It wasn't raining that day, so it was really nice for them to get out and just have a run around before, again, doing a nice long day of the art show. And back at the art show, Bumblebee is healing on the left while we walk around and just help people set up here for the next day, which is today. But we're just moving some tables before we open up for the public to come and enjoy the art show. Here we are back at my piano at the art show here. Bumblebee has, again, his frog legs activated while he's in a settle next to me on his purple settle mat. Here's a clip of me asking Bumblebee to retrieve his water bottle off the floor that is behind me. Here he is grabbing it and handing it to me so I can give him a water break. We are there for quite a few hours, basically the entire day from morning to like early evening. So we take lots of little breaks here, and here's Bumblebee sniffing around on some grass and some bushes outside of the hall that we have the art show set up in. And we take lots of these breaks. It was a nice sunny day on the last day here. Because we're at the show basically all day sitting and talking to people, and Bumblebee has to be in a settle for most of that, and he's usually in a settle for about an hour and a half to 2 hours at most before I give him a break sometimes. So I bring a frozen treat for him to lick and enjoy. Since joining this art group, they have requested me to play piano for the art show. Last year it was a success, so we did it again. Here's my friend filming her chocolate lab service dog who's in a harness, and she keeps panning to me who's playing piano, and Bumblebee is basically comatose at my feet while I play my piano. Piano is such a big thing to me and Bumblebee. That is how I taught him to settle, is when I played piano at home, I would get him to lie down on a leash and sleep under me. And now he just does it voluntarily anytime I'm playing piano. This pup absolutely loves hearing piano. And I absolutely love playing it for him. And with that, that is the end of the art show here. So here's my art in a big box Bumblebee's looking into as we start tearing down the art that didn't sell. And here we are walking next to someone who's tearing down a table. I just like for him to see it and watch, because it's quite loud when you do it, and it's something different. The person's dragging the table across the floor here. He doesn't care. Not much bothers this pup. And we turn around, Bumblebee's walking at a heel as we look for someone else who needs help.
You did pretty good, puppy.
And with that end, we go to the next day where I just said, let's just take the day off, Bumblebee. And here he is running around in the park with Ezio, and I'm walking Zayla on a leash, and Bumblebee's just running around in this green little park here. And there's some mountains in the background. There's a bench to our right, and there's a tree with some bushes and houses in the background. Anyway, with that, we will end our vlog here. Again, I really apologize for not keeping my promise and being consistent with my uploads. But with that, I will have the item I've been so desperately waiting for to arrive. So I will finally have that in the next vlog, and I promise I will upload as soon as possible, and I will be more frequent with my uploads. So that, I will say thank you. I appreciate you all, and I hope you all have a great day. And we will see you on our next fun adventure.